Welcome to the Impressa Era podcast, a realm where intuition flows through real life and your personal power is celebrated. I'm your host, Queen Impressa, and together we'll explore tarot, self-mastery, sensuality, and aligned growth. Now take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let's get into it. Welcome back, my loves, to the cozy corner of podcast land here, where you're allowed to grow, to evolve, and most importantly, to become. I'm Queen Impressa, and today's episode is one that I need you to sit with, feel, receive, especially if you've been in a season where things feel very uncertain. Even with just the weather, things feel a little uncomfortable, and where you might even be questioning if anything's actually working for you. But I'm here to remind you that your life is aligning in so many ways that you might not see yet, and that doesn't make it any less real. Now, I know how easy it is to look around at your life and focus on what you don't have or what hasn't happened yet, because we live in a world and a really fucked up society that conditions us to measure our progress by visible results and timelines, and the worst by comparison. But alignment does not always look like immediate success, okay? It's not all about instant gratification. And it does not always look like things are falling perfectly into place. And it definitely doesn't feel comfortable all the time while it's happening. And there's a lot of people that get discouraged and start to believe they're doing something wrong, when in reality, you're right in the middle of doing everything right. So today we are shifting our perspectives. We are grounding back into our power, and we're walking through the real signs that your life is aligning, even if it does not look picture perfect, because growth is not always loud, okay? Alignment is not always obvious, and transformation happens quietly before you can see it with your own eyes. One of the first signs that your life is aligning is that things start to fall away. And this is the part that not a lot of people like to talk about because it's uncomfortable. It's about outgrowing people, losing people, outgrowing the space that you were once in, and feeling disconnected from things that you were once very comfortable in. That can feel a lot like loss and rejection, and you may need to take some time to grieve, which is totally understandable. And at times, depending on how extreme it may feel for you, it can feel like failure if you're not looking at it through the right lens. But what I need you to understand is that alignment requires space. And if your life is full of things that no longer match up with who you're becoming, there's no room for what is meant to come in. When you start evolving, your energy shifts, your standards shift. Everything does. Your awareness. And naturally, that means certain people and environments are not going to resonate the same way they used to. And that's not a punishment at all. It's just a sign that you're no longer available for the bullshit. And even though it might feel uncomfortable in the moment, I promise it's actually making room for something that aligns with the version of you that you want, the version of you that you are gracefully stepping into. Another powerful sign that your life is aligning is that you're becoming more aware of yourself. And this one, I'd say, is a lot more subtle, but it's very important because awareness is the foundation of transformation. When you start noticing your patterns, your habits, and your reactions in real time, that means you're no longer moving through life on autopilot. So you might catch yourself before reacting the way that you used to. You might notice when something feels off instead of ignoring it. And you might even feel a little uncomfortable with behaviors that were once okay with you. And you might honestly just, be so frustrated with yourself. Like, why was I accepting these behaviors and these habits? What version of me was okay with this? And that's okay. It's okay to reflect and look back on everything that's happening. That's part of shadow work. And I've touched on shadow work a little bit here and there during my podcast episodes. I think we need to do just one full episode on shadow work itself, because it is vital to any sort of spiritual practice to accept the light and the dark of ourselves. But I digress. When you start to notice all of these different behavioral changes, it's you witnessing growth happening in real time. because you can't change what you're not aware of. And the fact that you're seeing yourself more clearly means you're already stepping into a higher level of consciousness. Something else that I want you to recognize is that slower movement in your life doesn't mean you're stuck. It really means you're building something that's meant to last. And in a world that disgustingly glorifies instant results and overnight success, it can feel discouraging when things aren't happening as quickly as you want them to. But fast does not always mean sustainable. There's such a difference between something that arrives quickly and something that is built with intention, stability, and depth. So when your life is aligning, you're often being prepared for what you're asking for in ways that require patience, in ways that require growth. And because what is meant for you is not meant to just arrive, it's meant to stay. You may also notice that you're starting to make different choices, even in small ways. And I need you to understand that these small shifts you're noticing are so powerful because they are the building blocks of bigger transformations. And sometimes we overlook them because they don't feel dramatic enough. But choosing to say no when the old you would have said yes before is a sign that you're stepping into a new version of yourself. Alignment is not always about grand gestures or life changing moments. It's really about the quiet decisions that you make every single day that move you closer to the life you desire. And when you start honoring those small shifts instead of dismissing them or thinking they're not good enough, you begin to build trust with yourself. And that trust becomes the foundation for everything. I'm telling you. Another sign that your life is aligning is that you start to feel drawn towards different things. And this can show up as a plethora of ways. So it can show up as new interests, new people, new ideas, and even a new vision for your life that you didn't have before. And it's going to feel unfamiliar, but it's actually your intuition guiding you towards what is next for you. You might find yourself wanting more, not in a way that feels like ungrateful or selfish, but in a way that feels expansive, like you're ready for something bigger, deeper, and more aligned with who you're becoming. And that desire is not random. It is a reflection of your growth, of your evolution, and it is a sign that you're no longer settling for what once felt enough. There's also a phase in alignment that feels like being in between. So, where you are no longer who you used to be, but you're not fully who you're becoming yet. Like that Britney Spears song, the I'm not a girl, not yet a woman. That's literally where you are. And the space can feel very confusing. That song is full of emotion for a reason. It feels uncertain. It feels lonely at times. But I need you to understand that this is a necessary part of the process because transformation requires you to release the old version of yourself before you can step into this new one. This in-between phase is where so many people give up because it feels uneasy, right? It doesn't feel solid. It feels unclear and it feels incomplete. But it's also where the deepest growth happens because you're learning to trust yourself without needing that constant validation. You're learning to move forward without having all of the answers. And something else I want to gently remind you of is that alignment doesn't mean everything's perfect all the time either. And it does not mean you will never experience challenges or hard emotions or setbacks because growth still comes with that discomfort and evolution still requires you to stretch beyond what you know as familiar. The difference, though, is that when you are aligned, those challenges don't break you in the same way. They don't define who you are and they don't keep you stuck in that same cycle because you're moving through them with more awareness and more trust in yourself. You see where I'm going with this? You see where I'm going with this. All you need to do is have more trust in yourself. You'll begin to see obstacles as opportunities for growth instead of signs that maybe you should quit or stop. And you begin to understand that everything you experience is teaching you something. It's guiding you to the next version of yourself. It's redirecting you out of a bad situation. And when you adopt that mindset, you take all of your power back in a way that changes how you move through life entirely. And I know you can hear how fired up I am about this because it finally just clicked for me in the last 6 months. It really did. It took that long. It did, but I'm here. Now, I want to talk about something else that's very important as well, and that's the way you speak to yourself during this process. Because your internal dialogue has a powerful impact on your experience. And if you're constantly telling yourself that you're behind, you're broke, you're not doing enough, nothing's working, you're creating this narrative in your subconscious that keeps you disconnected from your own truth. So instead, I want you to start affirming your progress. Even if it feels super small, even if it doesn't feel like it's ready yet, or you're still trying to figure things out, because you're allowed to be proud of yourself while you are still in the process. You're allowed to celebrate yourself while you're still growing. Nothing has to be perfect. And perfect isn't even real, okay? It's a made-up concept. You are allowed to acknowledge how far you've come without needing everything to look perfect. Your life is aligning in so many ways that you don't understand yet, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in this entire life is just trust the process and trust yourself enough to keep going even when you can't see the full picture. Now, as we come to the end of this episode, I know that was so heavy, and I know I should have just told you I was holding your hand that whole time, and I didn't, so I'm sorry. I promise I was. I just want you to take a deep breath and really sit with this, because you are not behind. You're not lost. You're not doing anything wrong. You are expanding and aligning with the version of yourself that requires you to grow. Everything that is leaving is creating space. Everything that feels uncomfortable is stretching you, helping you grow. And everything that feels uncertain is inviting you to trust yourself on a deeper level. And when you start to see your life through that lens, you'll realize that nothing in this life is random. Nothing is wasted, and nothing is working against you. Your life is aligning, even now, even in the moments where it feels so unclear. And the more you trust that, the more you embody that truth, the more you allow yourself to believe that, the more you will begin to see it's reflected back to you in ways that are undeniable. So please keep going, keep growing, keep trusting yourself, because you're not waiting for your life to align. You are living in the process of it right now. And that is something worth honoring, celebrating, and believing in every single damn day. Now, until next time, my loves, stay grounded, stay powerful, and remember that everything you are becoming is already unfolding exactly the way it is meant to. Bye, lovelies.